Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, when we come into the presence of God, we all walked in through the doors one way, and we're designed to walk out the doors a different way.
Yes.
If we come in one way and go out the same way, then we haven't actually stepped into anything. There's been no change. There's been no difference. There's been no transformation. God is not a God of just normal. I'm going to say that again. God is not a God of just normal, of just like, hey, I'm just going to try and be as normal as possible. And He's not a God who just stands in this place of, telling us, well, you better figure it out. What He says is, He says to come to me. Come into my presence and be changed. Come into my presence and be transformed. Let my spirit renew you. So we came in one way. Some of us came in with exhaustion. Some of us came in with fear. Some of us came in with discouragement and hopelessness. Some of us came in with a sense of just being stale, complacent, stuck, feeling like, you know what, I'm just doing the same thing over and over, and I'm not getting any kind of a different result, and I don't really feel that God is doing anything significant. And we walked in and we feel like we're being stifled, we're being choked by the world, by the enemy. Some of us came in believing lies about ourselves, about our identity, about who God is, and about our circumstances. Some of us came ready to step into the glory of the Lord this morning. But the point is that we come in one way and we go out a different way. That's why there was different gates coming into the temple. You came in one gate and you went out a different gate because you're not supposed to go out the same way you came in. Did you hear me? You're not supposed to go out the same way you came in. So what we're doing right now is we're coming in, we're entering into the presence. God says where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there. So He's here with us. So we're entering into the presence. And our goal today is to be transformed and changed so that we go out differently. Amen?
Yeah.
Amen. Let's worship.
Spirit break out.
there's a wall that gets broken down where we maybe haven't accepted Jesus or made him the Lord of our life, and that wall has to be broke down. And usually the thing that divides us from that is pride or unforgiveness or bitterness or rage or shame, pain. We can break through that wall and we might feel like there's no other walls in our life. Okay, God, I believe you. I'm trusting in you. And we say these things and we say, Jesus, I believe in you and I believe in your word. And we can be even memorizing scripture. We can be doing all these things, but still have walls in our life. Walls look like thoughts. Walls look like mindsets and belief systems that don't align themselves with heaven, with the kingdom. Amen. See, there's things that we accept or things that we allow in our life, even as Christians, even as believers in Jesus, there's things we allow in our life to create a wall that keep us from being transformed and changed. There's thousands of people coming into church buildings today that are not being affected, they're not being changed, they're not hearing the word of the Lord, or maybe they're hearing it but it's doing nothing. Because of walls. The walls look like thoughts. Walls are belief systems. So I want us to just examine. David said in Psalm 139, search me, know my thoughts, know my heart, know my thoughts, know my intention. See if there's anything in me that doesn't align itself with you. See if there's anything in me that isn't plumb line with you, God. So I'm going to throw out some things here that look like walls, and I'm going to get vulnerable with you in my own life of walls that the enemy continually tries to establish in my life. I want you to know that there is no shame in the kingdom. Therefore, anything that tells you that you are unworthy, or you are unwanted, or you are unloved, or you are not good enough, is not from God. And it is a lie, and it is a wall that is designed to keep you from experiencing the love of God. I'll tell you this: discouragement, hopelessness, depression, there is none of that in the kingdom of heaven. It does not exist. So if it's existing in your thought life, if it's existing in your heart, it's a violation of who you are in Christ. And it is a wall that must be torn down for you to step into hope, for you to step into encouragement, for you to step into the light. I will tell you that there is no bitterness and rage and anger or frustration in the kingdom. There's no bitterness, there's no frustration, there's no anger in the kingdom. Therefore, that is a wall that is trying to separate you from peace. It's trying to separate you from trusting the Lord. It's trying to separate you from believing God, believing that His promises are true for you. And that wall has to be torn down. It has to fall. It means we have a wrong belief system. We have a wrong perspective. I have to admit to you that frustration is one of the things that has a tendency to try and come on me when I don't see things happening the way that they're supposed to. So, one of the things that has caused me frustration, I'm going to get really honest with you. One of the things that's caused me frustration over the last few years is that I have this hunger inside of me to see God possess me and fulfill His purpose in me to the fullest. And I feel and I see in my life that there are things missing. There are things in my life that I want to have more authority not face to face, but via Holy Spirit. Bill Johnson said, some people misconstrued frustration for hunger. I've been doing that. I've been allowing my frustration to be the thing that tells me that I'm really hungry for God. But there's no frustration in the kingdom. So I can't, that's an opposing spirit. So my pursuit and passion for God and my heart that burns for the more of God cannot be stirred up by frustration and be fruitful. My hunger has to follow with intimacy. My hunger has to follow with peace. My hunger has to follow with being quiet, being still before the Lord, resting in Him, drawing close to Him. I can't mistake frustration for hunger anymore. There's this thing called fear. This is a big one. This thing called fear, it's a wall, it's a thought, it's a belief system. I talked 2 weeks ago about how fear, for me, was different. I didn't fear man. I didn't fear the dark. I don't fear the demonic. I don't get afraid. But there was this other part of fear of this false expectations appearing real. False expectations appearing real. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute. In the life of Jacob, we recognize that fear was holding him back from stepping into his purpose from God. And even though he was taking steps of faith, there was this fear that was there of what he thought was going to happen, what he expected to happen. But it never did. So these false expectations that I'm battling with, I'm just being honest with you guys. I've been saturated in the presence of God for the last 2 weeks with some events that have absolutely ripped open my soul and my spirit, and I'm never going to be the same again. Woo! There's this message in my mind about performance. That if it's going to be, it's up to me. That if success is going to come, it's on me. That if blessing is going to come, it's on me. And I'm talking about even this church, this body, that if we're going to actually see lives change, if we're going to be an effective church, if we're going to be an effective ministry, then it's on me. And that's a burden that I put on myself, and that's not from God. That's a wall. That's a false expectation that the enemy, because then it comes back when I see something or I hear something that is not producing hope. There's some things right now that I have zero control over. Zero. I have no ability to solve the problem. None. There's no amount of work, there's no amount of effort that I can do to solve the problem. And so there's an expectation that I put on myself, because here's what the enemy wants to do. The enemy wants me to feel like a failure. The enemy wants me to feel like it's not going to change. The enemy wants me to feel like I'm not doing a good enough job. And he wants that wall to be built up so that I'm walking in condemnation and shame and fear and expectations that are not mine. They're not of God. We say to ourselves all the time, it's a form of pride. And it keeps us from trusting God. God is wanting to break through some walls this morning of wrong mindsets and wrong belief systems and wrong thoughts that we thought were okay, that we thought we were trusting God, we thought we were doing the right thing, and actually what we've been doing is we've been agreeing with the wrong spirit. We've allowed frustration in our heart. I know I have. I've been confessing this now for a week and a half. I've been going to the throne room of God, and I've been surrendering the thoughts, and I've been capturing those thoughts, and I'm making them obedient to the knowledge of Christ. Here's what Jesus said. Jesus said in Matthew 11, come to me. Come to me when you're weary and you're tired and you're full of burdens. Right? Come to me because you're carrying a burden that's not yours. You're carrying a heavy thing that's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It's not intended to be on you, and it needs to come off now. Because as long as you're carrying that burden, you're being crushed. You're being oppressed. He says, lay that burden down and put my yoke upon you. Now, a yoke is different than a burden. A yoke means that you are teamed up with somebody. A yoke is something that they would put on a team of oxen or a team of mules so that they would pull together. They would push together. They would do the work together. And you're now in Christ. He's designed us to be yoked up with Him, so that He's doing the work and we're partnering with Him in obedience. And Jesus does things completely opposite in the world. Completely opposite. In order to receive, what does He do? He gives. He wants to give us something today. He wants us to yoke up with Him and let go of burdens that are not ours. And you have an opportunity today to come in to the presence of God and leave different. Leave different. Leave free. Yoked up with Jesus. We're going to take up an offering right now. And I want this to be about laying down burdens. I want this to be about surrendering. I want this to be this place of gratitude and joy for all that Christ has done for us, all that the Father is doing for us. And I want praise to erupt in this place. And I want us to step into the fullness that He has for us this morning. And I want us to, as Holly teaches, partner, agree, and obey. Don't allow a wall, a belief system, a thought. Walls look like thoughts. Don't allow that to stop you from walking up changed. Let's worship the Lord. You are the God who saves us. You're worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna. Come have your way among us. We welcome you here, Lord Jesus. So come have your way among us. We welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Come have your way among us. Welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Hosanna, 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 You are the God who saves us. You're worthy of all our praises. You are the God who saves us. You're worthy of all our praises. Oh, you are the God who saves us. You're worthy of all our praises. One more time. You are the God who saves us. You're worthy of all our praises. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath you could ever breathe. We live for you. about building up. See, the wrong things need to be torn down, the right things need to be built up. The right mindsets, the right belief systems, the right boldness, the right way of seeing ourselves and seeing God. So he's building up. And he's built on a foundation that cannot be shaken. It's the rock. The rock, and I'm not talking Dwayne Johnson. It's the rock of Jesus Christ. The rock of Jesus Christ. We have an opportunity to come to the rock where we won't be shaken any longer. We're going to worship the Lord in communion. We have communion up front here in the back and also in the back. And then through the next song or two, we encourage you to commune with the Lord and to reestablish your mindset on the rock. Reestablish your life on the rock. Reestablish your life on the only one who saves, the only name that delivers, the only name that heals, the only person, the highest power, the only safe place. And you're invited, we're all invited to come to the table with boldness. So now we boldly can come to the throne of grace because of what Jesus Christ did. So come. Loved
we were up at David's tent, right before we were about to leave, I encountered this guy, and he just showed up, sat on the bench right there, right next to the tent, and I just began to love on him and talk to him, tell him about Jesus. You know, he knew Jesus. Maybe didn't have a relationship with him, but he's heard of him, and he says he gives everything to him. I'm like, that's awesome. And as the conversation got deeper and deeper, and as he's sitting there drinking out of he began to go, man, I just don't know. Like, God took this for me and this for me, and then Jeremy and I started pouring into him, saying, no, God doesn't take things from me besides what needs to be taken, our sins. And he's just like, man, I can't relate. He's like, I wish I could just feel God. I wish I could know that. He's like, I wish I could know that God actually wants what's good for me. That's what he was trying to say. And we were like, well, that's a good question. It's a good one. And so we just began to pray for him. And the more and more we prayed for him, the more and more he just became to open up. It was just like, tell him more of his past, tell us more of his pain. And Jeremy knelt down and got right in his face and was like, there was a veil that God tore so that he could take that. We don't have to live like that. He tore it so that we could be one-to-one. In Exodus, I forget where it says, but in literal Hebrew, when Moses is praying and talking to God, it literally says they're face to face. Like touching, like face to face, lips to lips. And that's how we're with God. I feel like that was for someone today, maybe multiple people, but God tore the veil so he could be in your face. Because he wants a relationship with us. Seriously, he wants to be like best friends with us. A lot of us are like, yeah, but I need to actually see him and feel him. We can. He lives in each one of us. We can have it here. We can have freedom here. We can have it now. We don't need to be held on to our bondage. That's what we just loved on the guy and told him all the time. We don't need to be held back by that. He's like, I wish I could know that. And we're like, you can. You can have it. And he stayed the whole entire time as far as I knew it. But we can have it. We can have freedom.
Yes, amen. We have a lot of really cool testimonies. Christopher, will you unmute the first channel? Right there, just the very first one. If we can get live here. Check. Check. Hello, there we are.
There he is.
So I want to share with you just a couple cool testimonies of what God is doing. I want you to say this with me. My purpose in God.
My purpose in God
It's not about me.
is not about me.
My purpose in God.
My purpose in God
It's not about me.
is not about me.
It's about other people.
It's about other people.
My purpose in God.
My purpose in God.
It's not about me.
It's not about me.
It's about other people.
It's about other people.
So everything that we've been hearing over the last couple weeks with the events that we've been a part of, Compassion to Action and Awaken to Dawn, there's been this activation of going out and really putting our faith out there, where we're sharing our faith, we're connecting with people, we're bringing encounters to people, because we've been given the greatest treasure that's worth more than any amount of money, it's worth more than any amount of fame or power or success. In fact, there's nothing in this world that compares to it. It's the treasure that Jesus said, once you find it, you'll sell everything. You'll get rid of everything to get it, to possess it. It's a treasure that has no comparison in value. So we are carriers of that treasure, and we are called to deposit that treasure into other people's lives. Because other people need to know about the treasure. And the more you give, the more you get. The more you give it away, the more you get it back. You can't run out. It's not like you have $1 million and you're trying to figure out how you're going to try and reinvest it in order for it to not just diminish to nothing. Because in today's society, there's people that win the lottery and win millions, and they can be impoverished in a couple of years.
Yeah, come on.
You can't do that in the kingdom. The more you give it away, the more it comes back to you. So we got to experience this. We had multiple encounters with people. We shared a little bit last week of the encounters we had at Compassion to Action. I want to talk a little bit about what happened in Awaken the Dawn. The very first day, we're there early and we're just soaking the entire state capitol area with prayer and worship and just really just asking the Lord to do what He wants to do. And a young man I saw came and just sat down on the steps about 100 feet from the tent. And he looked but I just felt like the Lord wanted to encourage him, so I went up to him, introduced myself. His name is Gilbert. Say hi, Gilbert. He might be watching this. Gilbert's from Arizona. Gilbert lost everything in March, in April of this year. Lost everything. And he was left empty. And he had a job, he had a girlfriend, a committed relationship. They were starting a life together, and he had everything, and in a moment it was gone. Yeah. And he was left empty-handed and had no idea what to do. And thankfully he had a friend who loves the Lord and believes in Jesus. And he said, man, he didn't know what to do. So his friend said, you have to surrender it all now. You got to turn it all over. You've got to surrender it all. So he says, okay, God, so I don't know where to go. I got no money. I got no house. I got nothing. I got the clothes on my back. I've got a mom who loves me, but she can't really take care of me. And for Pete's sake, I'm 30 plus years old, and there's no reason why she should be taking care of me anymore. And so he had it in his heart that he might go on kind of a walkabout and do the hike from Arizona to the Canada borderline on the Pacific Crest Trail. And so he said, okay, God, he put a fleece out before the Lord. He said he was right at the deadline for getting his application. You have to apply to actually do the trip. And he said it's right at the deadline. So he said, Lord, if you want me to go, they'll approve it. So he applied and they approved it. And so he didn't have enough money, didn't have enough resources, and he left in faith. And there were multiple times in the first even 20 miles that he said, I wanted to give up. There were times where he was stuck 15 miles from anywhere with no water in the desert. And God would send angels and give him water. And through this whole trip, God, all of his money, he said, all of my money was gone in the first 2 weeks. And this is a 4-month trip. And so anyways, he ends up not quite making it all the way to the Canada border because his shoes fall apart. He's in snow. He's got another couple mountains that still have between him and there. And he just said, I can't do it. I'm putting my life in danger at this point, and I've got nothing left in me, and I've got no resources, and he didn't even have shoes anymore. And he ends up in Portland through hitchhiking and whatever he can. So during Compassion to Action, 2 girls, when we were out in the city, 2 girls had encountered him and prayed on him. And just blessed him and just spoke life into him. And so he wasn't a part of the event or nothing. He was just trying to figure out what the next thing was. So he felt like the Lord said, it's time to go back home. So he's trying to figure out his way back to Arizona. And he was going to go to the coast. And he was hitching a ride to get to the coast to go down to 101. And the guy that picked him up said, I'm not going to the coast. And he said, well, as long as you're going south, I'll just go with you. So Gilbert got a ride, and they ended up in Salem. And the guy goes, okay, this is where you get out. He threw a couple bucks in his pocket. He said, take a bus and go into downtown Salem. You'll find something. Wow. So he arrives in downtown Salem, and the bus stop is a block away from the state capitol. And so he ends up wandering into the National Mall, and here he is sitting in front of David's tent awaiting the dawn. He doesn't know why he's there. He doesn't know why God brought him there. And here comes Jeremy Graham. Walking up, introducing myself. Then a couple minutes, he's bawling his eyes out. And he goes, God led me here. God brought me, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so Gilbert ended up staying all 52 hours right there at the tent. He encountered the Lord. He rededicated and reaffirmed his faith in God. And he was actually going out on activations every day and praying over people and bringing an encounter to other people. And God was lavishly providing miraculously. He got a brand new sleeping bag. He was given socks and hand warmers. He was fed every day by different people who the Lord just, all of his needs were met for those 2.5 days, the entire time we were there. And I said, hey, do you want to just hitch a ride with us back to Roseburg? And so he came home with us last night, and he stayed the night with us last night, and he was just overwhelmed by what God has done. And he says, now I know what I'm supposed to do.
Amen. Yes.
I might go down back to Arizona. I might have a regular job. I might do, but every week I'm going to be going out. I'm going to be praying over people. I'm going to be blessing people. I'm going to be putting myself in men's ministry. And reaching out to kids at the skate parks. And so there's this thing that's been ignited in him. And God really led him into his purpose and his destiny. And now he will never be the same again because of one encounter with the Lord. Where God led him to Salem for a wedding and all. One of the times that we went out, we were praying over people and just encouraging people, and the Lord had us sit down on a bench at one point and just sit. And we're like, what are we doing here, God? And we're sitting here for like 15, 20 minutes, and we're asking the Lord if we're supposed to pray for somebody, if what we're supposed to do here. And pretty soon a man starts walking. There was people all around, but God highlighted this man. He starts walking slowly towards us, and I immediately heard the Lord say, you're going to pray for that guy. I said, okay, we're going to pray for him. And so we sat and waited. And he walked slowly. When he got about 15 feet of me, away from me, I immediately knew who he was. His name is Paul. And I encountered Paul about 4 years ago when he showed up into one of our morning worship times, completely lit up by the Lord. And just was in a time of revival in his life. And Paul has battled addictions his entire adult life. But he also loves Jesus. And he also knows the call on his life. But he has this internal struggle and this internal thing that's going on because of pain and hurt that he's still carrying from his past. And it's battling him, and he's at the moment has not been able to step fully into his purpose and in identity in Christ because he's got some walls, he's got some thoughts, he's got some things that are built up in his life. So I talked to him almost a year ago. He went into treatment and he was doing better. He's been out of treatment. And I thought he was still in Eugene. I had no idea that he was in Salem. So we're sitting on this, and God literally causes Paul to walk right to me. I said, Paul? And he goes, Jeremy? And we immediately hugged and for a long time. And I just began telling him who he is in Christ and reaffirming. And he said, you need to know I'm going back to Roseburg Sunday, this Sunday, today. He came back to Roseburg. He says, I've got a job. I've got a place to live. Turned to me, he said, I hope to see you Monday morning at worship. So, so God has been, so here's the cool thing. We talked to Zach and Healy and Carla. They were out on another walk, and blocks away, clear on the other side of town, they had encountered Paul, and Zach had gotten a word from the Lord for him, and they didn't recognize Paul, even though Healy had been in one other time. They didn't recognize Paul, but they had spent time praying. So God was just pursuing Paul. God is pursuing Paul because God is faithful to finish what he started. God's going to finish it in Paul. I got one more story. 2 nights ago, we were doing the night watch. That means we were leading worship from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Out on the sidewalk because they had us close down the tent after 10 because of noise ordinance and all this stuff. So we're out on the sidewalk, being as loud as we possibly can. And no one was complaining, so we were just worshiping with everything we had in us. I mean, it was loud, it was fiery, it was awesome. And all of a sudden, about 2 a.m., we heard off in the distance this faint whistle of someone whistling through there with their with their fingers or whatever, and it was kind of odd, we just kept worshiping. Pretty soon heard it again, got a little closer, and after a little while, this man walks down the street and he starts yelling and hooping and hollering and whistling, and he walks up right behind me, and he goes, "What are you guys doing? You called me in from 5 blocks away." His name is Jose. Everybody say Jose.
Jose.
So Jose didn't know it. Jose is a rough dude, and he looks pretty mean. He looks like a UFC fighter kind of guy. And he was pretty agitated. There was some stuff going on in him. And I stopped playing, and Zach and Haley and Holly continued to worship and lead, and I just began to go and start to speak life, speak Jesus into him. And Jose bowed his head. He said, "I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that." And I would say, "You're a child of God." He goes, "I don't believe that." I said, "God loves you." "I don't believe that. God has a purpose and a plan." "I don't believe that." And he's confessing because of shame, condemnation, and because of all these things, he wasn't able to receive it. There's been this blockage thing. And he had some drinks. He wasn't stupid drunk, but he was a little tipsy. And so another guy walks up with me to begin to minister to this man. He's one of the security guys. And he starts to talk to him. And then this thing ignited in Jose's heart. And Jose began to quote scripture. Jose then proceeded for about 30 or 40 minutes to quote scripture to us, word for word. And I said, "What is that?" "That's in you?" I said, "You got holy in you, bro." I said, "What are you doing out here?" And he confessed, "I'm drunk. I'm an alcoholic. I'm drunk." And I said, "But that's in you." And I put on his chest. I said, "That's in you." I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Do you believe the words coming out of your mouth?" I said, "Because what you're quoting, and he covered almost 3 entire chapters of Acts. And he's just blasting scripture. And he's challenging us. Do you believe the word? I said, "Absolutely, I believe the word. And I believe that God sent you here so that you would testify and confess the word yourself to remind you who you are." Oh, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. There's a wall there, guys. There's a thought. There's a thing that was going on there. So I said, okay, so I went back to worship. We just went back into praise. He was kind of stirred up, trying to figure out what was going on. He kept coming up to us, right up to our face. He's like, "I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't like you." I kind of like Zach because he's playing the drunk. But I don't like you guys. Because what was happening is there was this conflicting spirit and this thing going on inside of his heart. Like he knows that he's purposed for greater things, that he's meant to be a preacher of the gospel, and he's meant to bring life, but he's got this pain and this drunkenness that's battling this old life that's still hanging on, that was crucified with Christ 2,000 years ago, and is trying to resurrect itself every day and tell him how worthless he is. Yeah. So he's really agitated, and for the next, I don't know, it was a while, probably about 45 minutes. He walked around in circles around us, and he would hit himself, and you could just see the angst, and he would just beat on him, he would bang his head against the signs, and there was just this thing, and he would cry out, he would grunt, he would roar, and he would, whatever he could, and then he would, in between that, he would come and he would just fall, and he would just bend down like this in front of us, and just listen, and soak. As God would speak to him through worship. Then he'd go out and rant again. There's a war going on over this man. This went on for a while. Finally, we got to a part and we just went into some just prophetic worship and just singing the song that the Lord wanted us to sing. And we began to sing, I surrender all. I surrender all to Jesus. I surrender. And he hit the pavement. And he didn't get up. And he sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And he then sobbed, and then he got up. And before this, so you need to know Robbie, the big security guard guy. He's a big dude. Johnny, he's a big dude. And he would hug. He would just hug on Johnny. But he wouldn't let me hug him.
Tell him how Jose talks.
Oh, yeah. So, everything that Jose did was like this. He's like, you gotta talk like me. And so he was very rowdy. He'd go, hoo, 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 hoo. And he would make all sorts of crazy sounds. And, yeah. So, he gets up. He's sobbing on the ground. We're still singing I Surrender All. He gets up and he looks at me and he goes, now you're gonna hug me. And he runs into my arms. And I stop playing the guitar. And he just falls apart on my shoulder. And he just sobs and sobs and sobs as I just sing, I surrender all. I surrender all. I surrender all. And we began to pray over the man. We began to call out every demonic thing, every negative thought, every condemnation, every shame, everything, all the things that were robbing his peace and robbing him of his identity. And the whole team that was gathered around us laid hands on him, and he just stayed in my arm, and he just sobbed and sobbed, and he just sobbed and sobbed, and he let it all go. And then the peace of God came, and deliverance came, and he was no longer agitated. He was calm. And he stood up taller. And he was quiet. And he walked over and they prayed on him some more, and ministered to him some more, and he picked up his backpack and he moved on. After about almost 2 hours of hanging out there with us. Here's the point of why we say these stories. All we were doing was sitting on the sidewalk singing praise God. That's it. God is passionately pursuing people. You and me. Recklessly, radically pursuing us. And he will use any and all. And so our inconvenience of being out on the street corner in the wee hours of the morning, singing songs to Jesus, feeling completely exhausted. At that point, we've been up for almost 24 hours straight, worshiping and praying for people. And so we were tired. Our voices were tired. And so, but God encountered. So here's the kicker, guys. Kyler and Caitlin, they were exhausted. So we let them go to bed. They didn't do the night watch with us. We let them go to bed back where we were sleeping at the house of prayer. And Kyler, when he heard me telling him the testimony in the morning time, where's Kai? I want you to come and say it, but huh? Where's it at? Oh, okay. So I want you to say it.
So basically, so it's pretty much how my dad was saying. Me and Kale were both just exhausted, and so he let us sleep back at the Salem House of Prayer where we were able to sleep. And so my dream, it wasn't very specific, but basically I was talking with someone, and in the background I could hear the name, Jose. I could hear the name Jose actually being said in the background. Like I noticed it, but I didn't really pay much heed to it until the next morning when I woke up and Dad was saying his testimony. And I just thought that was really cool, and I didn't really know what time that was because I was asleep, but I'm willing to guess that it was really close to the same time. Yeah. Because the Lord was definitely whispering to me, and I myself definitely believe that.
Yeah. So God was speaking in Jose to Kyler, who was asleep, about 6 blocks away from where we were. So God is chasing after Jose, and God is going to finish the work that He started with Jose. And Jose is going to be a man who proclaims the gospel and brings many people to the kingdom. So that's who he is, and that's his purpose, and that's your and our purpose. So we started a journey with Jacob a few weeks ago, and I want to finish it today. And we're at the point in Jacob's life right now when Jacob finally gets it. He finally gets it. See, he had encountered God on his trip. All he wanted to pull the map. He had encountered God on his trip as he was trying to run away from his past. He was 70 years old, trying to run away from his past, trying to run away from a brother, and he was living down here in Beersheba, right down here. And he runs away up to Padam to his uncle's house, and he spends the next 20 years there. Running away from his past. But God said it's time to go back and fulfill the purpose I have in you. And one of the things that Jacob had said was, if you're actually going to be with me, and if you're actually going to do the things that you said, then you'll be my God. I don't know that you're doing it. So God does it. He brings them all the way back, and there's this fear that has risen up because of an expectation that Jacob had. Jacob expected to meet his violent brother, and that his brother was probably going to try and kill him, because that's what he had left 20 years before. And so he's on his way back, and he meets up with his brother, and it's nothing like he thought it was. So they met up almost clear back down at Shechem. And so he meets up, and instead of his brother being angry, his brother embraces him. They hug, there's reconciliation, they cry together, and Jacob is like, okay. So God held up his end of the bargain. Now I've got to hold up my end of the bargain. And so there was fear that he had to overcome in order to obey the call in his life and to step into the purpose. And then there was another thing, and it was removing hindrances. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. He had to purify. He had been dragged along a lot of baggage of idolatry and different things that he had taken on his 20-year journey. And he had to clean house. And he had to remove the hindrance in his life, and he had to step fully in. Because God held up his end, now it was Jacob's responsibility. And so Jacob encounters God again in Genesis 35, 9 and 10. And it says, now that Jacob had returned from Padam, God appeared to him again at Bethel. God blessed him, saying, your name is Jacob, and you will not be called Jacob any longer, for now your name will be Israel. So God named him Israel. And Jacob went ahead and came all the way back down to the area near Beersheba. So you can see there's Bethel on the map. There's Bethel, that's where he encountered God again. God reaffirmed, renames it Israel, and then he goes back on down to Beersheba at the bottom there, where his father still was, and he moves back into his homeland. His father dies, one of his wives died, and he settles in the land there. He's raising 12 boys, and you're going to hear another story about one of his sons starting next week as we go into the life of Joseph. But I want to finish up Jacob's life just in the next few minutes. I want us to talk about how Jacob stepped in and fulfilled the purpose that God had in his life. See, Jacob was born into a generational thing. His grandpa Abraham had encountered God and had trusted God and had believed God, and God said, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to make you a great nation. And so we see that carried on into the life of Isaac, Jacob's father. Isaac was then carrying on that, and now Jacob is the chosen one to carry on the generational blessing, that they would bless nations, and that they themselves would become a great nation. And so I want to jump down. We're going to talk about Israel and the purpose and the blessing. Israel, the purpose and the blessing. I already read verses 9 and 10 to you, but I'm going to pick up in that same chapter of Genesis 35 and verse 11. It said, then God said, after he just said, you're no longer going to be called Jacob, you're going to be called Israel. It says, then God said, I am El Shaddai. Now, if we go clear back to Abraham, God introduced himself to Abraham the same way. Yes. I am El Shaddai. God Almighty. Say, God Almighty.
God Almighty.
Now, why did God need to introduce himself to Abraham as God Almighty? Well, let me tell you why. He was 100 years old and hadn't had a kid yet, or at least the kid that he was supposed to have. and fulfill. He's like, how am I going to be the father of many nations? How am I going to be a father of where my generational line is going to outnumber the grains of sand? How's that going to happen when I haven't had a kid? And now I'm old and my wife is, her womb's withered up and it's like a dried raisin. Okay? So, how in the world are we going to do this? And God said, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. You need to understand something. It's not about what you think and what your limitations are or on what you think is going to happen. I'm God Almighty. I'm El Shaddai. So God introduces himself to Jacob the same way. See, Jacob didn't really fully understand. He was just finally getting to the point where he was ready to step into his purpose. And what does God do? He introduces himself again. I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. He says this to him next. Be fruitful and multiply. You will become a great nation. Even many nations. Even many nations. Say many nations.
Many nations.
Kings will be among your descendants, and I will give you the land I once gave to Abraham and Isaac. Yes, I will give it to you and your descendants after you. Then God went up from the place where he had spoken to Jacob. So Jacob has now stepped into his identity. He's now stepped into his purpose, and he's fulfilling what God. And so he's back in Beersheba. He's back in the land, the promised land that God had promised. He's now purchased land there. His grandfather and his father are both buried there, and now he is established. And he's like, okay, so now I'm destined. I'm to become a blessing. Let's see that together. I am to become a blessing to all nations. That was his purpose. And at the core of our purpose, from our place, remember when he talked about earlier, that treasure that's inside of you, deposited into other people, what does it do? It becomes a blessing. That just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, and it can never run out because God is infinite. So a lot happened, and there was a period of time, probably right around almost 20 years, probably 17 years or so. And you'll hear the story about Joseph, but basically Jacob dreams that one of his sons dies. He's not dead. And Jacob's pretty much brokenhearted and depressed for the remainder of his life until God shows up again and reveals that Joseph is not dead. And reveals that God had a plan set in motion. You're going to hear about it. You don't want to miss next week. You're going to hear about God's plan set in motion. But there was a severe worldwide famine that hit the whole entire earth. And the plan that God had established was in the nation of Egypt. And so God caused all people to draw into Egypt so that they could be fed and nurtured through the 7 years of famine. And so it got to a point where, you're both the map again, you guys can see how far Beersheba is from Egypt. Okay, here's Egypt down here, and here's Beersheba over here. Okay, this is the nation of Israel in this section over here. So he's living here, and they have to send his sons to Egypt to get food. And this is where the story of Joseph takes place. But ultimately it got so bad that they could no longer just travel back and forth to get food. They had to move there. And so I'm going to read this in Genesis 47, verses 7 through 9. It says, Then Joseph brought his father Jacob and presented him to Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Okay, I want you to hear this. So Jacob finds out his son Joseph is alive. Joseph says, you guys got to move here. They move there. They move to Egypt. They're living in, they're given land in the area of Goshen for them to raise their flocks and everything. And then Joseph, because of this relationship he had with Pharaoh, the highest authority in this nation, in this empire, brings his dad in. Says, hey, meet my dad. And Jacob steps into his purpose and identity. And he blesses Pharaoh. And Jacob, in this section, this is now him. What is he doing? He's blessing nations. He's blessing another nation. Jacob presented him to Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh asked, "How old are you?" Jacob replied, "I have traveled this earth for 130 years, but my life has been short compared to the lives of my ancestors." And Jacob replied, "I have traveled but my life has been short compared to the lives of my ancestors." Then, if you go into chapters 48 and 49, it talks about how they settled that Pharaoh, because Jacob blessed him. Pharaoh goes, "All right, I'm going to give you the best land in all of Egypt, and we're going to bless you because God is with you, and I received that blessing." So Jacob finally starts to understand fully what this is all about. He starts stepping into it. And I want to just highlight a couple of things here. This is kind of the so what. I want to say this. Jacob now understood the blessing on him and the purpose of it, and he now strategically used it to further the purposes of God and his family and to bless other nations. I don't have time to go through it all, but I challenge you and encourage you all to go to Genesis 48 and 49 this week. Say this: I will read Genesis chapters 48 and 49 this week. Alright? So we have slips of paper that if you didn't get one. And I want you to read how Jacob finished his life, because right before his death, he pulls all 12 of his sons into one room and begins to speak a blessing and prophetically releases into them their identity and their purpose. And we're going to continue the story of Joseph and the nation of Israel next week. But I want you to understand these two things. You've been given a blessing, you've been given a treasure, and you have a purpose in God. And that purpose is not about you. That purpose is about other people. God's doing something in you, but he wants it to translate to other people. Amen? Let's stand and let's bless each other. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Stretch out your hands. Repeat after me. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. That I am purposed